Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be going through a case that I was personally very much invested in for years. We're going to be talking about the Delphi case, and this one is quite an intense topic. I've put together a few things for us to go over, and directly after this video there's going to be a live stream where we can sit and discuss the things that we've spoken about in today's video and kind of go over this case a little bit more. I do have something that I personally found back in the day that I find very interesting. Probably doesn't hold any weight, probably means nothing, but it's kind of curious. So let's get into it. We start in the city of Delphi, Indiana, a very small town, very close-knit group of people, very picturesque, almost like a storybook. Absolutely pretty in every way. But it was struck by something that was very confusing for so many years, and even after it's been closed, there's still confusion and worry and doubt, and let's get into all of it. Our story starts on the 13th of February, 2017. This was a beautiful day, an uncharacteristically beautiful day. The year hadn't been a typical one, so the school had extra snow days that they kind of gave out. The girls on this particular day had a snow day from school, so they were able to stay at home and do whatever they wanted. They were by Libby German's house, and I will explain Libby in a moment. It's Libby and Abby. And both of them were there, and they were just relaxing, kind of having fun. I want to explain who they are before we get into what actually happened, so you guys can understand the dynamic of this friendship, which was so cliche, it was awesome. It was one of those friendships where you could see the opposites attract moment happen, where you had the beautiful Libby German, and she was 14 years old. She was very outgoing. She was bold. She was into sports and music and social media and dancing and just being an extra person, being out there. And the contrast between her and Abby were amazing, because Libby may have been 14. Abby was the 13-year-old reserved version of her. So someone who was equally as interesting and fun, but she was very reserved. She was a lot quieter than what Libby was. She had a much gentler personality. She was into more of the creative things. So you'd have Libby into sports, and you would have Abby into art. And these things worked so well together. They did play softball together, which was really great. And they had been friends for quite a while. It's such a beautiful friendship to see the stories of these two and how they became friends and just how they complemented each other's personalities. It was absolutely amazing. Now, Libby was very close with her family, her big sister, Kelsey, being someone that she was very, very close to. She would tell Kelsey everything, and Kelsey is a part of the story, but not where you think. So as you can tell, this was a really fun little friendship, and something that, thrived off of just giggles and laughter between the two. On this particular day, though, they had decided that they were going to go to the Monon High Bridge. This is a bridge in Delphi. It's an old railway bridge. It's very scary. And they asked Kelsey to please drop them off there. So it was just a normal day. They were going to go to the bridge. It's a very common area for children in Delphi to kind of go there, take photos, hang out, just be a part of it. And they wanted to go there to take a few photos. Completely understandable. It is a gorgeous place, okay? All for old school buildings and rusted down place. It's character. It's gorgeous. I would be taking photos there as well. They were dropped off at about 1:45 in the afternoon, 1:45, and family knew where they were. They had told people that they were going to the bridge. Everyone was aware that they were at the bridge, and they had organized for Derek German Libby's dad to come and fetch them later on that afternoon after they'd hung out at the bridge and just taken photos and gone on this little hike and just been kids out there having fun. So we have the girls at the bridge. Family knows that they're there. They've got a planned pickup. They're going to take a couple of photos and just relax. It seems like a normal day. Something that is completely ordinary. That you wouldn't expect anything to last years in a mystery to be revolved around. But that's what happened. Later that afternoon, Derek German arrives. And he's there to pick up the girls. And he phones, and no one answers. And at this point in time, Derek is very worried. His daughter is missing, her friend is with her, they're not answering their phone, but he's not in full panic mode yet. He starts looking around the area. Maybe, they lost their phone or dropped their phone somewhere and they're on their way back to tell them that they need a new phone. Or maybe one of them got hurt and they're hoping that they get found and someone can come and help them. But no matter where Derek looks, he cannot find the girls. He searches everywhere. Now, on the bridge, there are two different routes. There's the 402 and the 405. I think that's what they're called. And it is about the steps. How many steps are on the one side and how many steps are on the other side. So he takes the one and goes up basically to the bridge, doesn't fully cross the bridge, but searches near the bridge area. Then he goes back down to the other path and searches there and there's nothing. At this point in time, he's now starting to panic a little bit and he's wondering what could have actually happened. So he starts phoning family and family starts arriving and they start searching. And eventually they decide they need the police involved. They need proper search and rescue. They need to find these girls. It is getting late. It is like dinner time. They should be home. So they phone the police. And immediately, a wide search starts happening. I'm talking community members get involved. You've got police. You've got everyone there searching constantly for hours into the night. And as it gets darker and it gets colder, hope kind of leaves most people. It's worrying out there. What if they're really badly hurt? What if they've fallen and they're unconscious and they need to be found? These people are so worried about where these girls are. But by the time midnight rolls around, they're not found. And the search is forced to be called off due to lack of light. The very next morning, they wake up, they start the search. And I'm talking first light, they start the search. And they go through this entire thing. Again, they start from the beginning of the trail and they carry on. And for hours on the 14th, there's nothing. You hear that there's a search happening, but there's no reports. There's no conference to say what's happening, what the developments are. There's no updates to this. It's just a search. And just after noon, rumors start going around. The police that did the investigation into this missing person, the search into these girls, eventually sit down and confirm that 2 bodies had been found. At this point in time, they did not confirm that it was the girls, but everyone knew. It was obvious. And that's when panic mode set in. The girls were confirmed to be found dead. They had been murdered. There was no cause of death. There was no exact location of where they were found, just across the river. There was nothing. And then a couple of months later, not even, it was less than like 2 months later, they finally put together the first press conference. And this is incredible. This is probably the most amazing piece of evidence that we have that solved nothing in the beginning. Nothing! They get to the press conference and they go, it's 100% confirmed. It's the girls. They found them. But that's not all they found. Libby had taken her phone out and recorded something. So during this press conference, they release two things. Three, but it's not too important yet. They release two very important things. These are exact things of the killer, the suspect, the person. They have a picture of him, and they have his voice. So this should be an easy solve. They got picture, voice, easy. They know what he looks like, they know what he sounds like, they can find him, right? No. They release just one snippet of his voice. This is what they released. Now, I don't know if you know many people who use the word guys, but as far as I know, 90% of the population uses the word guys, English-speaking population, uses the word guys when they're calling someone, or referring to a group, or, you know, just, I'm gonna go hang out with the guys, or, hey guys, what you doing, or, guys, be careful, there's something there. So this phrase was helpful in hearing his voice, but the actual word threw everyone off. Why just that word? Is that the only word? Rumors started flying around. Obviously, we have this picture, and we have this phrase, this recording. And people start speculating. This is not the first time they speculate, but it's also not all they release. They release a sketch of the suspect. Now, I want you to take a hard look at the sketch. He looks like the guy in the video. He looks like the guy with the hat and the clothes and the facial hair and everything. He looks like the guy in the video. Not exactly. I mean, the guy in the video is as pixelated as anything, but he looks like he could resemble the guy in the video. So everyone's like, okay, this is definitely who we are looking for. 100% this is what we need. And they start looking. And for 2 years, everyone has these three key pieces of information: the recording, the picture, and the sketch. And that is it. There is no what happened to the girls, how they were murdered, nothing. But someone comes out and says that the scene was very weird. And that starts piquing the interest of many armchair detectives. Hi, armchair detective here. We start speculating. The internet is running wild with theories, but we're not getting into those yet. It takes 2 years. 2 years of absolute silence. No official word on the investigation, no official news on the investigation, no updates, no nothing. 2 years. Picture, voice, sketch. And 2 years of nothing. And it's not like this is 1948. We're literally looking at 2017. Technology may not be the best, but it's much better than what it was. So we should have been able to solve this. But then the cops do something that really wasn't expected. They hold a second press conference. And this absolutely annihilates the internet's logic completely. With this new press conference, they release more of the recording. So now you have the guys, and you have this phrase. So now if we put it together, the full thing that was released is this. And these two together, you would kind of, hearing it the first time, assume that it's a flowing kind of sentence. He says it, and that's it. There's no in between. Until you listen very carefully. You can kind of hear where the recording gets cut off and restarts. You can hear that cut, that little break. And the internet loses its mind. There's more to the recording. That means there's more to the video. And it also means that they've cut the video up so that you only have these two sections. And what else is being hidden from the public? And I get it. I'm going to get people in my comments going, There's a reason they do this. They hide the stuff so that when they find the person, they can confirm, blah, 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 blah. I get that. But this was the most confusing way to go about it I had ever seen. Because it gets worse. They give you the second piece of recording, and then they drop the sketch. Now, I want you to keep in mind when looking at this one that when they release this, they clarify that they are still looking for one individual, and they believe that this individual looks like the sketch. It is never said at any point in time, ignore the other sketch. It is never said at any point in time that we're now changing to the sketch. Nothing. And then more news comes out. Not official news from them, but little leaks that's later on confirmed. The first sketch that we saw was drawn second. Stay with me. The second sketch that we saw was drawn first. So they had the sketch of this younger man for 2 years before they released it. And that confuses me. It was their very first eyewitness sketch of this man. And yes, he looks nothing like he does in the recording. Nothing. So then why go for this angle? That's something that's still not completely explained. But just so you have comparison, these are the two sketches. Side by side-ish, I'm in the middle. But these are the two sketches. And I don't know about you, but they really don't look like the same person. I don't know. There was a theory that floated around that it's the same person, just drawn from like 2 different age perspectives. So the younger sketch would have been something that an older person would have described, and the older sketch would have looked like something a younger person would have described, because obviously age ranges and things. That is not confirmed. It's just a theory. A game theory. And after this press conference, the internet completely loses it. Like everything. You can imagine. There are podcasts. There are channels dedicated to this. There are people that are going out and accusing everyone who may have like a little stubble of being the Delphi killer. It is incredible the theories that came out of this. So we start looking at everything. And this is kind of where I get involved personally myself. I had just heard about the Delphi case just before the second sketch was released. I watched the second press conference. I found it very interesting and very weird. And halfway through I was like, are we sure we're still talking about the same story? Then I did my own kind of digging. Now, I don't want you to sit and go, oh, she found something. Oh my, no. No. I went from being an active viewer to being someone who actually wants to look for things, because things didn't make sense for me. So, late one night, I went into the Wikipedia page, and I started looking just through the normal front page of it to see if I could find anything. And there were like little tidbits of information here or there. There were a few people that had come up, we will discuss them, but nothing concrete. And then something inside of me said, check the edits. Don't know why, I just had this urge. Check the edits. Do I normally check the edits on a Wikipedia page? Sometimes. This time, I went and I checked, and I was going through everything. I had loaded up the 250 edits from what had been there, and I started searching through stuff. And at one point, I come across an edit that feels weird. At one point, the Wikipedia page is edited to say picture of suspect, and that gets changed into suspect Richard. Nobody knows who the fuck Richard is. We don't know who the fuck Richard is, okay? Random dick lying around. We don't know who he is. There's just like a random Richard. And almost like clockwork, like absolute magic, it gets reverted back. Picture of suspect. The name Richard is removed. And then I went back yesterday to find the exact edits. And here they are. So in this first one, you can see it says updated sketch of Richard over there. This is an old version of the page. So this just arrived randomly out of nowhere. I then went and found the next edit where it is removed. Absolutely removed. This is exactly where I found it. It's the revision history, and scrolling all the way down to these two particular ones that I found it. Now this is interesting because these edits were done in 2020 and there wasn't even an arrest made until like 2022. And the name Richard could mean nothing. Absolutely nothing. But it's there, and then it was removed. Now, here's a theory that I have for this. My biggest theory when I saw this was someone may have known something and popped a name in there to kind of, I don't know, give out a clue without giving out a clue. I don't know. My other thing was, this is literally proof of how much this case fucked with the internet. People got so dug into this case that they were willing to change Wikipedia pages just for a chance of trying to solve something. It was very weird. It has stuck with me for a very long time. So, what I did was I took the screenshot, put it in the back of my mind, and I thought I would ignore it. I thought it would go away. But it always irritated me. Always. And I have no clue why. I still, to this day, cannot explain what it is, why it's there. It feels so weird. There are other random edits, but this one of just the suspect really got to me. It's something that ate at the back of my brain constantly. Now we have the internet running around with theories, and we have several people that are being pinned for this. We have internet speculations, and we have official searches into these people. And I kind of want to go through them because it's slightly important to the story to show you how many people were pointed at to being the Delphi killer, but nothing really stuck. Now, we're 2 to 3 years into this investigation. We're trying to figure out things. And so far, we have a couple of suspects. So, behind suspect door number 1, we have Daniel Nations. Now, Daniel Nations was a very tormented soul. He lived in the area. He looked very similar to the one sketch. He was violent, but and he attacked a bunch of people with a machete or a hatchet. Sorry, but that's a different story. There was no evidence for him, none. He was in the area. He had access to weapons. No evidence. Then you hear that they're looking at him and the violence, and you're going, okay, so then this scene must have been slightly violent. So we're looking for someone extremely violent for this. Which, I mean, if you've killed 2 teenage girls, you're already a violent person. But they're looking for, like, extremes, apparently. So the next person that we get behind suspect door number 2 is Paul Etter. Now, he was linked to a separate violent crime as well. He is a violent offender that lived very close to the area as well. But again, no connection. Then behind suspect door number 3, we had Thomas Bruce. Also, once again, a guy who committed violent crimes. Compared, once again, visually. So now we're realizing they're looking for someone violent. But also the sketch resembles pretty much all these people. But it can't be all of them, it has to be one. And slowly they're getting ruled out. So Thomas Bruce gets ruled out as well. No link. Then they have Charles Eldridge. So behind suspect number 4, door number 4, is Charles Eldridge. And again, he was a local. He was questioned very early on because of his location, proximity to the location. And again, he was cleared. So now we had gone through 4 different people. We could not find anything. And it was frustrating. It was so frustrating. We had voice, we had picture, we had everything. And it's all because Libby pulled out her phone and hit record. It was amazing. But it still wasn't solved. And this irritated the internet. Speculations went flying. It was absolutely ridiculous. But at this point in time, we realized that the sketch could literally be anyone. The guy in the video could be anyone. And at one point, we thought we found that someone who was anyone. There was an account that came out. The Indiana Delphi police put out a statement saying that they would like people to get hold of the Libby and Abby tip line and let them know if you had any connections with an account called Anthony Shots. Now, this is the picture Anthony Shots used. He's quite cute, won't lie. But that's a bit awkward. Why are we asking what this older gentleman is doing in connection with these girls? And then you start thinking, okay, so maybe there's a predator aspect to this. And they start looking, and after a few weeks, it comes out that this guy, Anthony Shots, isn't real. Well, no, he's real. He's just not the one behind the account. You see, the account is being catfished, or used as a catfish, for this guy. Kegan Kline, isn't he great? Seems like a real stand-up guy. He was using this account to communicate with minors and get material from them that really isn't legal. Okay? So, there was a connection there. This Anthony Shots account had been talking to Libby. It had communication with her. It was back and forth, very romantic. She was fully in love with this guy, while talking to this guy without knowing. Everyone thought we have it. It has to be it. But it wasn't. Kegan was 100% investigated to the ends of the earth. They looked into everything. There was speculation on the type of car he had, with a Google map image of that time and day in Delphi, and the car was there, and the internet was running wild the moment they found out who Kegan Kline was. It went insane. And he was charged. He really was. Just not for the murders. He was charged and convicted of exploiting minors and getting this material. And he's been sentenced. He's on his own thing. But again, the internet was like, this is the guy. This has to be him. It makes sense. He's got connections to the girls. He's close to the area. He's using a catfish account. Like, it makes sense. But things were missing. And at the end of the day, it didn't actually make sense. Not fully. On surface, yes. But he had no connection to the case, crime-wise, murder-wise. Other things, he had connections to Libby, but not to the actual murder case. Then everything goes silent again. Kegan Kline gets convicted, he gets sentenced. And it's kind of like Indiana police just go, well, he's caught, not our guy. And they go quiet again. And this is almost like an eerie quiet. It becomes one of those silences where you're pretty sure the next update you're gonna get is gonna be that we can't solve this and we're screwed. It's at that point. We're losing hope We're not able to solve this with everything that we have. And then the 31st of October happens, 2022. That Halloween started out like a normal day. I woke up, I opened up YouTube, and I saw the very first video. An arrest has been made in the Delphi case. But these people have been silent for years. But what do you mean an arrest has been made? You have thrown out leads everywhere. And now, in the shadow of the dark, there's an arrest that's made? I find this very interesting. So I go in. The person they arrested is a man called Richard Allen. And here's the thing. They had him on the books already. Not as a criminal, but in the investigation. Not as a suspect, but as someone who was already on the trails that day. In fact, he spoke to them. He, after finding out the girls went missing, went to someone and said, I was on the trails that day. This is what I did. I was looking at a stock ticker and looking at the fish below, and then went home. And they took his word for that. And they left it. Now, Richard Allen doesn't look exactly like the sketch, but many things have confirmed it's him. Kind of. A lot of people still speculate that it may not be him, and there's a lot of stuff that's happening still that causes a lot of worry and tension about why he was arrested. And that's the thing. He gets arrested, and I'm not kidding you, after everyone I've just listed, after the Kegan Kline thing, we're gonna get a random arrest and just believe? No. Speculation started up again. It's not him, it's a full guy. The police department head is just doing this so that he can get elected again. It's theories were going wild. But they kept questioning him and kept going through evidence. And eventually it was released that an unspent bullet that was found near the girls links back to the striation marks from Richard Allen's gun. Now here's my curiosity, right? This is where it kind of irritates me. They find this bullet near the body of the girls. They hold on to this bullet for a while. They then compare this to a bunch of guns around. I don't know the full science behind this, and I think that's why it confuses me. But they take the striation marks on the bullet and they compare it. So I want to know how they got hold of Richard Allen's gun to compare it. Because surely if you're the one who had the gun, you wouldn't be doing it. But again, this is where the confusion comes in. After all these years, we're still stuck questioning things because we didn't know what to go with in the beginning. But they get him, they arrest him, they do everything they can, and the trial is an entire nightmare. Leading up to the trial, dates are constantly pushed back. Normal thing that happens in court cases, but it gets intense. There's calls for Richard to be moved from the prison he's currently in to a different prison, that he's in isolation, he's not being treated well, and then Richard snaps. One day, he just loses it. Tells his wife, I did it, breaks his tablet, and that's it. But nobody believes him. Obviously, you're not going to just take someone's answer right there. You need to, go through the evidence together and, line things up to make sure the story matches. But he did have a break, like an absolute break, and destroyed many things in his cell. First of all, very impressive. America, your prisoners get tablets that they can watch things on. We don't have that here. We don't have that here. That's very interesting. The trial eventually began. And with the trial, you would kind of expect it to be, open to the public. I don't expect it to be like gavel to gavel coverage. At this point in time, I don't think that would be legal because we're dealing with minors. We got to remember that, with the court case, we're dealing with minors, children under the age of 18. This is very intense stuff. The entire court proceedings was closed off to the public. And the only people that could get in were journalists, a few people off the street that could, like streamers that could get in early. And if you got in the morning and then were let out for lunch, there was no guarantee that you would get in for the afternoon session because of all the lining up and everything to try and get people in so that it's as closed off as it can be. This case was so sealed up. It is absolutely ridiculous how much protection was put around this case, but at the same time, I understand it, I get it, I know why. But it left so many questions. So we relied on other people. People that had gone to the court case. People who sat there listening to everything, jotting down notes. It was to the point where you couldn't even have your phone in the courtroom. They wanted nothing to come out. Nothing. It was piece of paper, write it down, get out, do your news report, get back in, maybe eat something when you get home later. Like, it's an entire day. During all of this, watching all these journalists go through the case, watching them come back and report on these things, we started learning a little bit more. We learned that the video that Libby had caught was, or that she had recorded, was 43 seconds long. We learned that there's more to the recording, but it does not give us answers. I have the full recording. I'm pretty sure many people who have followed the Delphi case by now have seen the full recording. That snippet comes from this video. And I want you to take these 43 seconds and fully watch the video. It is heartbreaking to know that the girls had panic already when they saw him. Please watch it.
See, this is the path that we go down. There's no path going there, so we have to go down here. Hi.
After all these years of searching for someone out there who had come into Delphi, taken the lives of two beautiful and bright girls who had such amazing futures ahead of them, and then to find out that it was a regular guy who lived in Delphi, who worked at the CVS pharmacy. People knew this guy. They went in constantly. They walked past him. There's a picture of him sitting in a bar, and the sketch of the killer is behind him. And he did nothing. Said nothing. Kept it all to himself. I still don't know the full reason why he did what he did. It eventually came out that the girls were not killed with a gun, but they were, they had their throats slashed, which is already an intense one. I did not go into the details of the crime scene. Those are rather intense, and we will go into it a little bit during the live. If you guys want to, I'm going live directly after this video. And I'm going to be discussing little things. And I really hope you join me for that. But for now, this is the Delphi case. It was solved. Richard Allen is behind bars. But I still have more questions than answers at this point in time. And that irritates me. I'll see you guys in the live. Bye.